Hallo Bernhard. It's
Hallo.
it's
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag, I'll switch.
Yes.
It's about time we're talking here on the podcast, and
Yeah.
it's so incredibly strange for me to talk in English with you because we've been talking in German, with each other every day for 26 years or so. So this is very strange.
Yes, it
But
is.
but the cool thing is, like, when I got to know you, you didn't really speak English,
No,
not
actually
in
not.
practice.
No. So I had like the usual school lessons in English, and actually I didn't dare to speak English in that time.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I saw a certain need to talk in English. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it happened when we started to go to. I think it was visiting Simon Hayworth, maybe, right? Like that was one of the first trips we did to England, or
Yes.
meeting with Tim Bowness or something. Huh?
Yeah. So I've learned a lot from Tim, and a very great amount of my knowledge goes back to Ian, actually, Ian Body.
Mhm.
And yeah, and this was like just because I just found friends to which I had to speak English. So that was the main reason. So
Yes.
so now we have to talk in English, but we did. So on tour, when we went with George, and we went all the way through America. So we usually didn't we talk English? I thought it was more convenient for the three of us if we didn't leave him out then in the car.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But it's funny because I don't remember really.
Uh,
Yeah, but when others are there that don't speak German, then obviously we speak English.
yes.
Um, so Bernhard, like, obviously I know a lot about you, so it's difficult to kind of like even know where I want to start. But I think like something that is kind of special and important for you is the fact that you grew up um, in a farm on a farm in a farmhouse that is quite far away from the village,
Yes, it is
right?
indeed.
Hmm.
It's in fact it's behind the hill, as we say. uh, yeah, it came with some disadvantages, but also with some advantages. So I had like completely freedom to do like any kind of noises and stuff. And I also, I was gifted with like a bunch of siblings who were like super crazy and did all kind of stuff, and I learned a lot from them. And I at some point I started to do my own experiments. So this was good about this place, I'd say. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. And as a child, like when you were, I don't know, like really young, even before school, um, do you remember how that time was for you?
Well, actually, I have to admit this was kind of boring because so there was no such thing like kindergarten. Well, there was a kindergarten, but my parents couldn't bring me there because it was just too far away, and they didn't have a car or anything. So I was just at home, and like I when I remember those times, I actually the main thing I remember is that I was like really waiting for my older brothers and sisters to come back home to do something. But when they were at home, they actually they didn't really want to do something with me because I was the very youngest. Um, so, but yeah, but at least when they were all at home, something was going on then. So it wasn't that boring. But actually, it wasn't not much going on in that time. Yeah.
Mhm. So did you have access to music or radio and TV when you were very young?
Yes. So, well, of course, it was just a simple black and white television set, but obviously I loved it anyways. And and there was a stereo. Like one of my brothers or sisters always had like a stereo or something, and especially one of my brothers, Albert, he used to have like a really big collection of vinyls and stuff. And yeah, I always found this very fascinating. Just, this it's, not only the music, but that the music came with so many interesting and mysterious pictures. And then on top of that, my oldest sister, she met her boyfriend then, and he was like a very friendly person, and he also had like a super great collection of vinyls and music and stuff, and he was really happy to share that with me. So he was like dubbing those tapes for me, and like always recommending music to me, and this was very, very important for my music taste. So I used to say that my music taste is actually older than me, because I know things that are not in my generation. I mean, I look old, but my music taste is even older.
So the boyfriend of your sister, so you said he made tapes for you, or did you ever visit him and
Yeah,
were
so I
you
was
listening to records with him at his place?
yeah, so we were listening to music together, and every time I liked it, I asked him to record that for me, and so I built up a certain collection of music on my own. So yeah, so not everything
Where did he live?
not far, like
Where was he from?
so he was from that village, but he was a village person, as I was like a farm boy. So I had to go like, I don't know, like 5 kilometers or something, which was already sort of a distance in my time then. Um, but I don't know, like on Sundays or something, this was manageable to do, or I was allowed to do that. So when I was like bigger, so I could do like whatever I wanted to do anyways. But yeah, so this was the thing. So yeah, and sometimes we even went to the next bigger city, and we went to the stores, and we listening to music together or something. So we were kind of exploring the music that was on that time
Hmm.
together. I mean,
And you mentioned that the images of the album covers were also seemed very impressive to you at that time. Was that maybe even a reason for you getting into art and painting yourself, like the that um, that visual, let's say, that was connected with music from the very beginning, or were you also enjoying paintings, let's say, that were not associated with music?
actually, I've never thought about this from this perspective, but I would say so. Yes, I mean, well, it's obvious that music always like is very close to contemporary art in a way. So, and everything you could see there like was like the head of what was possible in those times. And um, and since I wasn't really able to understand like the lyrics or like even the titles or something, I only had the music, and somebody was like singing, and I had the images. So this kind of built up something for me, which I wasn't really sure if that was exactly what they were like heading for. Um, yeah. So, but I was sort of happy with it. I even kind of liked this uh, mysterious thing, so that it was always kind of hidden, or it always like pointed out to something beyond that. So I can remember in those times when I was then able to understand and read, that I was a little bit, you know, confused about the simplicity of some of those ideas, or that they were like completely in a different direction of what I was thinking, or so. But so my girlfriend and I, we sometimes we go to the museum and the art places here in Berlin, which are there are a lot of. And so I sort of have the same feelings then. So kind of we So we used to call this our Sunday service, you know. So it's like we are not going to church, but sometimes we go to the museum, and we just appreciate this, you know, not really understandable thing, and but people do those things just for a reason which is not obvious. And yes, I would say there's music in it in some sort of way, you know.
So when did you start painting or drawing? And that must have been before you started making music, right?
Yeah, this was way before. Uh, Actually, the question must be when did I start painting and drawing in a way that I would call it like a thing or even art. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even that I dare to call it art myself, that took quite some time. So I was like drawing all the time. So I was like all of my like school books or something. They were just, you know, covered in some sort of weird drawings and stuff, you know. But this was just, you know, because I was bored, or I needed to see something different, or because I just wanted to do it. But so the decision to make something out of it only came quite late, like in the end of the or in the middle of the 80s or something. So when I after I was like an apprentice of like a, so I learned to be a joiner. So this was like a really crafty job, and after that I decided to go to school and, you know, to go to the university and stuff. And then I met people who deliberately made art. You know, they called it art, or just, you know, they showed me pieces of paper with some like abstract drawings on it, and not just, you know, to draw something or to show something to somebody else or something. It was just, you know, a collection of colors or completely abstract. And then I realized that this could be something I also could do. And so I was kind of sneaking into it. Um, and yeah, and actually, in more or less in the same time, I also decided to experiment with sound and music. Still not really daring to call myself a musician. It was more like, so what is it? How does it feel to do this on my own, not just to listen on your, or like you always have this kind of noises in your ear when you listen to music, but then when you hit a certain note on a keyboard, or you know, you turn some knobs, you suddenly understand what it is, or how it comes from, or how it interacts with another noise or something. And actually this was the same way of experimentation I did with drawing. So so how it is to just draw something without intention, so to say, you know.
Mm-hmm. So this was when you were about
Well,
just about 20,
yeah,
maybe like 18 or something, right?
18, yeah. So I think it started around when I was like 18 or something. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I remember that when we started working together, and you had the like the MC303
yes.
groove box, that you were like, say, let's say you would get home from work and you would start programming that machine for a couple hours, like very focused, sitting on the sofa with the machine on on your legs. And
Actually, I never had it
I
on my
think I
legs.
remember that. But
Yeah, I never had it on my legs. I always had it like on the stand. But uh, yeah, this was like a very pragmatic decision. So back in the days, I had a car with like a tape in it. So I used to listen to those recordings like friends of my brothers did. So they were like those dance techno DJs, and they made like uh, tapes from their sessions. So sometimes they were kind of, you know, practicing or rehearsing, or I don't know how to call that. So and the outcome was like just those tapes, you know. And I had like a couple of them in my car, but I noticed that, you know, I wasn't really able to like listen to the music like on and on. Like when I listened to a tape like two times or something, I was getting tired of it, and it was
mm,
difficult to get some new stuff. And And in that time, I saw that this MC303, and I was like, yeah, I just, it wasn't really the idea to make more professional music. It was more like I need more music in my car. So, and I just have to do it on my own because it's difficult. It's more and more difficult to get those tapes, because like all the people were disappearing to different places, and I couldn't just, ask my brother like every other day. So if he could give me a tape. So that was the simple reason for it. So,
yeah, the reason why I was asking was that when you first started having access to musical instruments, so in the mid '80s, and you said like you were kind of like far away from civilization, let's say.
more or less, yes.
So that also meant that you kind of like you had the space and you had the time to kind of like really focus deeply into like getting into like a deep relationship with the musical instruments, right? Because there was no limit to how much time you could spend, diving into that one note.
Yes. I mean, like I'm might explain that, I just didn't, jumped into it like that. So there was like a sort of a prehistory to it. So one of my brothers, he used to have a band, like more something like a very experimental thing. Actually, like just a couple of friends, hanging out together, and there was like a drum set, and somebody brought a bass guitar, and like I can remember there was like this tape delays thing, and so this was just, up there in the attic, which funnily became my living room later on. But this was just, a coincidence. But anyways, so there's like something with instruments. So like, and obviously my brother, so he had to go to work over the daytime. And when I was back from school and I had some spare time, I was just sitting behind the drum set. And I just remembered what my brothers did, and he was like doing this, and I was like, I tried, and nobody was judging it. So I was completely alone on this super big attic, and yeah, and my mom was used to have like funny noises around the house because with 6 children, all of them like totally crazy. She was used to all this kind of stuff, so I could just do things, and nobody would ever comment if it would sound funny or something. And the same with the bass guitar. So I can remember days back then when there was just hanging the bass guitar over my shoulders because I didn't had a clue. And what I did was just I was just hitting the utmost string like continuously. I was just like playing doom 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 doom. Like, oh, I'll just make this. And, not knowing what I was doing, but they liked it because I just continuously did it. So I wasn't trying to play a solo or do something special or
You already
it.
did. You already did the Berlin style boom 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 boom
Yeah, sort of, like
sequencer bass.
And I liked the instrument. I liked the sound, and then I liked the fact that the strings didn't hurt my fingers because actually nobody showed me how to pull them or something. And when I had like a guitar, I kind of found, as a child, I was like, oh, this hurts. I don't like it. Just put it away.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, then like my brother, moved out, and obviously like all the music instruments went away, but the place was still there, and years later I started to fill it up again with like actually like crap, things people throw away, like old organs. And I had like some toys, and inherited from somewhere, and and then I started to do this with the same approach, not knowing anything about music and just hitting notes and looking what was coming out there. So this was the beginning, and actually the MC303 was already a super professional thing for me.
Yeah.
So even when I bought it, I wasn't expecting that it was capable of doing so much. I was like thinking, oh, it's a good thing. It can sequence notes for me. And when I opened the box, only then I realized, well, it comes with sounds. That was great.
Yeah, when we met in '96, I'm trying to remember which synthesizers you had. It was the Poly 6? No.
So back then I still had the Korg Monopoly,
Yeah,
this
that one. Yeah.
semi-digital thing. I had an SY22, I guess. And then there was this funny, super strange, but super great sounding YS200 from Yamaha. It was like sort of a tamed version of frequency modulation synthesizer. So I'm saying tamed here because I'm kind of aware what frequency modulation is, because I used to had a DX100 before, which only has 4 operators. So I was like, I could anticipate how it would have been to have like 7 of them in one like big machine. So yeah, this was sort of the things I had. And then there was this super great Yamaha QY10, which really brought me like light years ahead. So because this was like many people, they had like an Atari computer in that time, but for some reason I never got into that. I don't know. Probably, nobody actually really explained those machines to me. But this thing, like they did a lot to me, and kind of explained a lot of how music works, and in fact also a little bit of basic harmony theory and that. It sounds funny, but it actually is like that. So
Yeah,
just
I remember because we started making music with those machines.
Yeah.
And the MC303 then came pretty quickly, like maybe in '98 or '99, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because really it was like that when we started to make music, I saw that there was like a sort of progression, that you were serious about things. So because like all the people I was working music before, I mean, they did it like seriously also, but it was never really sure what they're like were heading for or which direction they would go for. It was always not sure if they would decide, to just get a normal job at some point. And you were like really serious. Like you were, and what really impressed me was like that you right away you said you're not interested in playing in some local venues or something. So you were already touring internationally. So I can remember in those days, like when we appointed like our rehearsal or playing session or jam sessions, that like every other week you couldn't do it because you were like in Spain or in Italy or something. And of course that impressed me so much. I was like, so okay, so this kind of stuff can bring you around in the world. I'd like to do that on my own, Yeah. And then I decided, okay, so why not? And I had money back then because I was working, so it was easy to just decide, okay, I need some more, focused tools.
And remember back then we did record. Sometimes we even still recorded onto analog tapes, right?
Yeah.
And my DAT machine.
Yes,
I mean, obviously we try to always record to that machine, but I remember some later sessions where we did not record to that, like the dance piece or Nasenhaare and stuff like that. I don't think we have that on that at all.
Yeah, Nasenhaare. So you might translate that. This was already pretty far ahead already, because I'm sure we didn't record that, but because I already made the first sketches of that track within Cubase. So there was we didn't have the need to record that. So I just recorded it on tape because I usually did that like on all of those sessions. So back then I had like a rig, which was consisting of a mixing desk, and this was like, ready, connected to a stereo, which was like placing the speakers were like placed in a way that like many musicians would like have a good sound in one place. And so I just had to hit the record button. That was the only thing I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Plus that I had new music in my car, so which was always like one of my things I always were after. And so like later on we didn't do that, but like in the first time you always brought the dot tape, which again I found so like super progressive and far ahead of all of the means I had at that time. So I can remember that we recorded like two versions of it of each session, like an analog one for me, just a sketch, and the real one in the digital world.
Mm-hmm. That machine, that was quite an investment, and I think I got it in 95, 94 maybe, and that was one of the best things I've ever done, like to spend those, I think, 2000 Deutschmark on it at that time. Sony,
Yeah, yeah.
some small Sony DAT machine, which was really, really great.
I mean, the interesting thing, we recorded is digital without knowing what we would ever do with it. We just had it in a digital version then. So this was actually sort of a time travel thing. So it's not like, why would we do that? Well, let's do it anyway,
Yeah, but I was pretty aware of the fact that digital was the way to go, and because I remember when I first learned about the CD format, which was probably in the early 80s, and I couldn't, like I remember that maybe the first CD store that I went to opened in maybe 84, 85, 86 or something like that, and actually remember buying a CD, but I didn't have a CD player. But then I asked my neighbor my neighbor had a CD player and a tape deck, and he played the CD on the tape for me, and I was listening on my Walkman to the tape, and even the tape copy of the CD was so impressive. There was no noise, no crackling, and it was just so impressive, and that's why for me, like from the early age of like 13 or something, I knew I wanted to have clean recordings, and how it turned out that even when we had the DAT machines, and I started recording my solo soundscapes, realized, okay, there's always some noise or some dirt in here, and so I had to learn how to denoise, how to edit out clicks with making crossfades, or merging two files and stuff like that. And I think it just kind of like prepared us for what was to come.
Yeah. And then there was the next big step. So I was watching you and your friend editing like sound on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had a computer in that time already, but that thing wasn't capable of doing like anything. I was like, I could hardly open a file, like any file, So, and you had like this super big machine in those times, and I can remember. So we were like, you opened up a session that was like 20 minutes long, and you could see the waveform, and you just edited out all those bad pieces and parts, and I was like really like, wow, that is possible. I mean, so for me, like the computer was capable of doing things in theory. So I saw this like in documentaries or something, but how would ever be able to pay such a machine? But yours wasn't that expensive. So and I was like, okay, I have the wrong one. But and he knows things. I want to do this on my own too.
But you had a Macintosh, right?
Yeah, back then, like I had a Macintosh, and funnily, it turned out that in those days, the Windows computer was like way better. It was. So some people might not understand, but it was really the fact. Like, so it's interesting because I started up with the Mac because I studied graphic design and everybody had this machine, and you weren't like such a Mac person. And while we were working together, I really had to see that the PC was like better for everything I wanted to do. And I completely switched over, and I'm still a happy PC user. And you, at some point, you turned over, and yeah. But I mean, like nowadays, that's not an issue anyway. So it's like it's a computer. Like a computer is a computer, a file is a file. But back then, you had to make decisions, especially if you were like short on money and some things, And for me, it was like really, yeah. So in German, there's this. So we Ton, it's the same word for clay. I don't know if this like is this something in English, but and so clay you can form with your fingers and your hand. And when I saw what you did with your computer and the software, then it was like they are like they did like shaping the clay, that I found so interesting and so fascinating that this is possible,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying this, although I knew that already that you could do things with images. So and I had the same moment of I don't know how to enlightenment some years before when I saw like people editing images, and you would think that okay, once you saw that, that's obvious if you could do the same with audio. But again, this really blew me off to see that, and then like really you opened up that 20-minute file, boom, and I was like, wow. That, I didn't have to go away and make me a coffee in that time or something, and then see the computer crash it.
Yeah, and like for me, making music with you was like heaven from the very beginning, because there was just like, I think from in both direct. Well, I don't know, but like we just played together. There was never any I don't know, any thought that I should be different than how I am
Yes.
when making music. And same for you. And I remember these amazing moments, musical realizations I had with you when we did, I think it was during the Bibi Boo session maybe, where there was this amazing piece with like this really great bass part. And then then somewhere in the middle you basically just turned the bass part off. And it was so shocking to me, like in that moment, like how can you do that? Like I didn't. But then like listening back to it, that's kind of like I learned more and more that your intuitive decisions, if they were not like coming from sort of a perspective of an arrangement or of an orchestration idea, where like you were really doing these drastic things with the sound, which maybe comes a little bit from that time that you were listening to techno a lot,
Yes. Yeah.
And that was just great for me. And then to see, okay, there's somebody who can inspire me even by doing things that surprise me, and
Yeah, I mean, like you could just call it naive, or I was just experimenting. So, and I also didn't expect anything from you. So, I told this story already a couple of times in different places. So you came to me and you brought all these interesting new toys like the digital recorder and a live looping machine and this space guitar, like the I think it was the Chapman stick back then still.
mm-hmm.
And it was really sounding so amazing, but seriously, that didn't impress me so much. It was more like, okay, this is a very futuristic thing. would impress people on stage, maybe just looks like I don't know what, but you were like really you had a commitment. So this was impressing me way more. So like when we had like an appointment for making music, say on a Tuesday evening, and then like when we were like done, so you were the one who asked for a next date, like next Tuesday or something. Nobody ever did that before. No one. So it was always like, so it was always for me that I felt the urge to explore more into that funny thing that's called music, or like, I don't know if this was still already music I was doing then, but so let's go further. And so but you had this sort of commitment to go on, and that was in fact impressing me way more, even if you would I don't know, just hit the table with a pen or something, but I don't know. So and all the other things, they were more like nice add-ons, nice to have, But of course they were like very impressive. Like I can remember very well this very first session we had, and you just came with like this, like how do you say, like this rack mount piece. It's this live looping, and the Echoplex I think was the machine, and your guitar. And there was so much noise coming out of this two little pieces. So I still had this concept in my mind that you have like this stacks of keyboards around you, like back then in those days when the keyboarders of those progressive bands had like those big piles of synthesizers behind and before that. And then I realized these days are over. So you need, what you have to have is like a musical idea and one really, say, focused piece of technology you need, and all the rest you can just drop. And this was sort of shocking in a way. I mean, in a positive way, obviously, but I was like, right away, I was like, okay, forget about too much stuff,
What's also very interesting that our very first meeting and music making was with Leander Reininghaus.
Yes, indeed.
Leander was there as well.
Yeah.
Which is still kind of mind-boggling to me, because it's like so many circles closing over the years, over the decades.
Yeah. And I'm still
because we went on making music, just the two of us eventually, even though there was Thorsten who was in CENTROZOON with you at that time, and we did play our first 2 shows maybe with him still as a trio, and then he left because I didn't play in D minor all the time. Yeah, that's just a joke, but he said something like that to you, right?
Sort of, yes. Yeah, I mean, like I would say that that was his way to express that he had like different plans for himself. So, but yeah, it was funny. I mean, you had this interesting idea. I mean, like, again, I have to admit this openly. I didn't had a clue about scales or like any sort of harmony, but I just hit some notes, and I knew something that worked and something that didn't. So and this knowledge I got together like somehow together with Thorsten, and then you came, and you were like very bored by like the way we played, not the way, but like by the say the collection of notes we were using, like and you were like really making an effort to get out of this circle of really restricted notes. And I was always curious about the fact, like every time I played something, it never really came to this feeling of harmony I had with Thorsten. And only later you explained that you deliberately played the wrong note when you saw that let's say I hit the G or something, or the F, and or I played like a D minor chord or an A minor chord or something. You deliberately looked out for the most wrong note, the most false thing you could ever play, you know. And then there was this other thing which really irritated dear Thorsten, which I would still say is like a close friend, although I mean, like, so you made this, you recommended that or suggested that like each of us should play something completely different, and that was just like one of us should play the white keys and the other one just the black ones, and he really didn't understood what that was could be good for, you know. So and we did it anyway. I think this was one of the very last sessions we did together. I mean,
I'm sorry.
and the thing is, I'm still using this method. You know, I have like Volker Lanko, which is also became like a really close friend. And he's also, you know, I'm not saying something bad about him here. So he's like also having this. So I would say, let's say it more in a Zen way. It's like he's having this beginner's mind, you know, and he's still having it. And so he's doing this ambient music, and he is having all the software and noisemaker stuff he needs. But when I see him playing, sometimes, you know, I see that he's like, you know, just playing the white notes, you know. Also, he's always ending up like on D or A minus. And at some point, I gave him the advice, you know what, just, you know, play. If you ever would like to play any white note, just a hit white note, just also hit the very next black one, which is the closest to it, with it again, or together, you know. You know, or always make sure that you never, you know, that you always, or that you hit like two notes which are like close to each other, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And from that on, he you know, sometimes he's hammering. No, he's not really hammering, but, you know, he's like really doing funny moves on the keyboard, which sounds way more interesting, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm still using these methods you taught me back then.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah, and I mean, like this our, let's say, our career with CENTROZOON was kind of like going strong for the first 10 years, maybe about 10 years, like till the mid, you know, till 2005 or so. And in that 9-year period, let's say, we did so many things. And I remember like one of the biggest accomplishments for me was like, I remember we went to the studio there in Lekepo. And so we actually recorded the first album that remains unreleased.
Yes.
But after that, we completely changed our style, and it was when you started using the MC303. I mean, you already used that for that recording, I know, but then we did the whole Vacuum Love series, which is on Bandcamp, which people can download, and that was really the discovery of our sound somehow, I think, that session. And then from there we went to do Bibi Boo. Well, first we did Blast, then Bibi Boo and Sun Lounge, etc. And then like this really unlikely combination of improvising with Tim Bowness and like turning the improvisations into songs and stuff that happened in 2001, I think, the recording session. And so there's a lot that happened in those days. And since, you know, we also started working together professionally as a team in 2000 with Studio Flocati, and we started investing the money we were making into our music. So that's why we were able to afford. Well, I don't know if we were able to afford, but we afforded to go to London, you have the Cult of Bibi Boom mastered by Simon Hayworth, and so we kind of like tried to take the art that we knew was never going to be mainstream, obviously, but we took it seriously and we packaged it, like from the trying to make it sound as good as we can, making it look as good as we can, and that was sort of like the beginning of what we're kind of still doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, we both had to go this the way of all, say, I don't know. We just had to think of how to make a living at some point, and both of us we're having a profession, and yeah, there was this other moment. I'm like to tell this story, so like I already did so often, and that is like, in order to promote our music, we were like spending a lot of time not only making music, we were just sitting together and promoting it. So I can remember that we just met to write an email. So sometimes you call me and say, can you just come to my place? We have to write this email to that person, and it's better if we just do it together.
Mm-hmm.
So and also, like, in that days, I learned the art and the craft of making how do you say that, like, spaces between sentences and something, and where to make a full stop and where not, and not just like, look, this is nice music, won't you just release it, and then just something like this, and you really made like chapters and in an email and to have an impact. So, well, we never did, but anyways. Yeah, but then I realized, wow, that guy is really, he's really forward. He's really straightforward. He knows things. He's just, and so in that time I already worked as a graphic designer, and I was sort of used to this, what you have to do in an office, and what is needed to talk to a client or somebody, or just to your boss, or like this sort of business stuff. And then I saw how you did it, and since this was like very, like, way closer to what you would rather do, why would anybody just write an email to a client to convince him to do the next job? I wasn't interested in that, but I had to do it just because this was like my where I earned my money from. And then I realized, look, that guy, like you, he's way better in that job what you're doing. So, and that this thing that comes after it, and that is the actual setting up of layouts, or like doing retouching on touching on an image or something, that's just not really important. You can learn those things just within a week or something. But I found it would, or I thought it would be really promising to really work together in a way, like in all ways, like in all things we have to do, not just only in music. So then we founded our office, not knowing what we actually wanted to do. So because you were a psychologist, is it right? So to say this way, I'm not sure in English. And I'm a graphic designer, and yeah, but back in the days, it like there was a different mood. So and there were like different possibilities, things that are not existing anymore. So people were really striving for other specialists who can set up a website or something like a nice print document. Back in the days, this was the thing, and we were just there and said, look, we can do this. Okay, you have something to say, but you don't know how, give it to us. We just make something out of it. And you need it tomorrow. Okay, anyways, we'll get it done, And so the whole thing started to happen. So then music.
Yeah, it's
actually,
funny because some of the very early works, they are still being used. Like the
Yeah.
Mozilla Music logo is still unchanged after
Mm.
23 years. The Kopfmensch logo, for example, which
Yeah.
obviously we didn't design it, but we decided to use it for me. Um,
Yeah.
that is still in use, and it's really incredible. The CENTROZOON style of design is still in use,
Yeah.
potentially in use, let's say, right? So
Yeah. In fact, we're putting it on each record we're designing. So it's more or less, it's just, it's within all the works we do for other people as well. So even if it's like in a complete different direction, but I can see it. It's just because I cannot be a different person. You know, sometimes I
yeah,
try to make up a different style, like when we work for Stickman or something, and um, so there's like Richie doing a lot of artwork for Stickman, and sometimes he, for some reason, he can't, or it's just been decided that he should not or something. And in order to have like a certain continuity, I try to come up with something that looks like that he could have done it, but it's always me.
mm,
It's
yeah.
I cannot be so drunk to really lose my way of doing it.
And even then, and I mean, we shouldn't really try to be different anyway.
Mm,
Like I don't know, like yeah, doesn't make sense.
doesn't make sense.
It's
Yeah.
it's this illusion that we're separate from the world, but we're not. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, and there are we now in these times, and still doing funny stuff.
so we've
And
we've we've made it this far, and you have eventually um, left the farmhouse, right? And
yes, indeed.
and your mother, I spent a lot of time with you at the farmhouse, with your mother being around, and we were joking, and her name was Elisabeth, so
Yeah.
but Else, right? So,
Yes,
and like, I'm just saying this because some people may not know, but Else is the short form for Elisabeth, and so that's why your CD was called Elsewhere,
yeah.
when she had recently died. We did that recording, right? I
Well,
can't even
yeah.
remember how much time there was between. Do you
Actually,
remember when we
there
recorded
was like
Elsewhere?
Elsewhere was recorded, I think, in 2000, 2017,
Hmm.
17 or 18. So that means my mother has passed away already like 2 or 3 years. But well, I'm still missing her, and I was like, and then there was this other thing that happened just like that. I came across this photos. It's like somebody on Facebook was posting those kind of landscape photos or photos of nature, and they were like
Hmm.
processed in a very you know interesting way, an interesting manner. It looked very much like a painting, but it actually, you could still see it was a photo. And this
Hmm.
kind of reminded me like very much of the forest behind our house, and I was like, yeah. So and that kind of brought up really strong feelings to me, and then I realized how much I still miss my mother. So, and then I called it Elsewhere. So that's kind of the whole story. And then you again,
Hmm.
you added another idea to it. So we were using names of this local places, which are, some of them, they're going back to this particular accent or like way of speaking they have in that area, which made
Hmm.
it even more, strange. So and it's a very like a statement. So to me, so how much I still feel connected to that, or how much I'm still aware of those roots I have there. And which brought me into really strange places at some point. So I can remember I was like in touring in the US, and I always have a hard time with jet lag. I don't know, like this is really difficult for me, like especially like those radio shows. They usually only happen after midnight, and this is like far ahead anything I'd like to have in ways of getting some sleep or something. But somehow I managed to cope with that. However, so I did this show at Mike Hunter's in what was it again, Princeton.
Yeah.
And I was happy, and it was nice, and Mike is a nice person to hang out with, and however, yet I was like super tired. And then he was playing one of the pieces of this record, and then he asked me how to pronounce Quenhorn, and this brought me like in a super trance thing. It was like, how does he know that name? I'm so far from it, and only then I realized, wait, yeah, okay, that's on the record, and he's like playing it, and yeah, but that was like, forget about drugs, just do those things. That's really interesting. That really brings you to different places.
Sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I ever told you this. When I did my first tapes, and that's how we met eventually. Like maybe we can tell that story as well. But when I made my first tapes, I think, and now I don't remember which one it was. It was probably a Chain of Frogs,
Mm.
which was an experiment with sleep deprivation on my end.
Oh, I
I
didn't know
was really
that.
just so
Really?
yeah. Well, I was just so tired for some reason. I hadn't slept in 2 nights, 2 days, and then I recorded this, and it was this super psychedelic, and yeah. So I had done that on purpose at some point, and that was one. I remember the very first tape I recorded was actually recorded on a tape machine, on my hi-fi's tape machine, and then because then I listened to that, and it was sounding so bad, I decided to buy that machine. And I remember I transferred the Eyes Closed was the recording of the first album, transferred that to the DAT machine, and then the copies were made from the DAT machine.
Okay.
And that was the start of. But from then on, like all the other tapes, I think I released 4 tapes, which I think I'm actually thinking of making available because I found a few original copies. So we talked about that. So maybe soon on my website, people can buy these really, really rare items. But that was the time of sleep deprivation for me. Ellerstraße in Bielefeld.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I ever have been there. So I can remember Stabmoorstraße, and then.
Yeah, that was the Ellerstraße, Stabmoorstraße.
Okay. So for me, it was always Stabmoorstraße.
Mm.
Yeah, back in the days, good old Bielefeld. I have to go back at some point and just visit some places and friends. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm not angry, or like some people they move away from where they grew up. So, and of course I see like all the bad things that happened there, that weren't nice, but now being here in Berlin, and some people consider me as the Berlin person, which I find so funny and so wrong. But anyways, so, but I still have to say I haven't broken with that relation, so it's always good for me to go back and just feel that this is part of me, that I cannot deny that. That's the simple truth, but I'm so, but of course also I'm here, and this is my home, and feels so right, and yeah, right now I wouldn't know where to go else. Berlin is just the place to be for me or for us. I'd
Yeah,
say.
yeah, for sure. Like I think I told you that, I guess you had the feeling of Heimat at some point, right? Like you maybe felt like you belonged where you grew up. I never had that. Never. Never felt at home
Hmm.
anywhere, which is strange. And now Berlin has changed that.
Only recently I listened to how do you say that, like a speech or something, like from a Zen monk, and he explained how important it is to have like roots, like spiritually. So you have to know where you're coming from,
Mm.
from your spiritual way or mind or direction, and from your bloodline. And I was amazed about this. So actually, how simple and plain that was. It. So I grew up in times where you always have to have a certain distance to your past. I guess that's also related to the fact that Germany has this difficult past, and there's so many things that went wrong. And back in the days, they were referring to a past that was never there. But you kind of as a German, you always feel like somebody took away your past from you. So that was something I really learned also from like English people. They don't have this how do you say that, Misstrauen, like no trust in their what was happening before.
Mm.
And then I listened to what this Zen monk said, and I was like, yeah, that's so simple. You can just decide that you want to, be in peace with your ancestors, spiritually, and also with your bloodline. So, and he just said the simple thing. So if you are in struggle with your parents or your grandparents, if you feel something, then your bloodline is broken. Something is broken within you, and that's the same with the spiritual minds. And and you just have to decide uh, what is your home, whatever that is. But I, I only realized that I what I did, just intentionally or not intentionally, what I did like without thinking actually makes sense. So there's a purpose for it to just decide. Okay, now I'm here, and I'm just preparing the place for me to be a good place. That's what I would call home. You know.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I go back on the road now, which has sort of become a home for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you say, because it's kind of like where you prepare to exist in a
Mm,
way, and you can. This is something that I've learned. You can prepare to exist within yourself, and then be in several places and still have a sense of home. Like what I meant, like that I was never kind of like localized. I never felt like I needed to consider myself as being from somewhere, which is
mm,
interesting because maybe as you say, it's part of like this the fact that I have some sort of commitment to something that is not localized.
mm,
Which music, I think that's kind of what music is. Music, you turn up the speaker and the music is not localized here where the speaker is, but it goes
mm.
away, and
Mm.
uh, yeah,
I mean, actually,
there are so many. Yeah, sorry.
this was something you mentioned very early to me as well. So that you are aiming to travel, to be somewhere else. So, and as I said before, this was very impressive to me to just to just outspeak that, just to just to just put this out in a way. So I always thought, okay, this is something that comes with the success, or or if it progresses in a certain way, it will come naturally that at some point I have to step into a plane or a train or a car to go somewhere. But you just put it out like this. So this is important. This is important to not just to look for the next gig somewhere in the next city or something, but really to go further than that. And I understood that you have to have this in your mind, and I don't think that this is in contrary to the idea of finding a home. It's actually the opposite, even especially if you know that you're centered somewhere, wherever that is. If it's just just an imaginary place, or or if you decide that your belly, or whatever is your center. However, you are relative to something. You're here, and now then you have to go there in order to make music or do your stuff or something. So that's I found that very important to understand and to learn that from you. And the same with me. I mean, I'd really wish to go and to travel again, and to hit the road again. I mean, I already know now if that will be the thing at some point. I will be very nervous then, because every time I do this, I'm so nervous that I think that how is that is this possible to do anyways? Is it even possible to sit in a plane and go that far? This is like this already goes beyond my imagination. I mean, although I already was sitting in a plane so often, every time I have to do this, like, is this right to do that? I mean, I'm not even talking about pollution or something. It's like, how is this ever possible to sit in this tube, this metal tube, and then go that far, and then step out of this thing and be in a. I mean, it's still the Earth. I mean, but don't let's just don't exaggerate it. But for me, it's like. And I have to struggle with those thoughts and really have to calm them down and pack your stuff, it'll be all right, you'll be fine, and but yeah, that's interesting, and I think that's part of the challenge, to overcome those struggles. You'll have this right now, don't you?
Yeah, I really, there's always so much anxiety before a flight to the US, especially.
Mm.
So yeah, and I still haven't decided if I want to take the guitar in the cabin, or if I want to check it in. It's that's a big question. It's really a big question.
I can't really help you. I mean,
No, I know nobody can help me. It's something I
I'm
just
like,
need to decide.
your guitar is especially long, and everybody will hate
No,
you.
the funny thing is, like, with these new cases that I have now, it's super small actually, and shouldn't be a problem at all. So I think I will try it, because the problem is, like, because, like, since we have the great ugly new airport here, there are no more direct flights to Newark Airport.
Really?
So I have, yeah, no direct flights anymore. So I always have to go via Frankfurt or Munich.
So
And
yeah.
that's a disaster. Like, really, I mean.
So I feel that I'm to blame. So the village, or the farm guy, the country guy comes to the city, and the big German city, shrinks down to a village with like a non-important airport. So it's all blame to me.
Hey, tell me something about how, like, when you came to Berlin, how your musical network started expanding here, and how the Material series came about. And there are over 50 releases in it now already.
Yeah, I mean, like the musical network of Berlin, to begin with that. I still would say, seriously, there's no such thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It maybe looks like it, but I mean, I found friends. I found a couple of friends, but I mean, no harm, so no hard feelings here. But I would expect something different from a real musical network. There are some people here in Berlin who seem to do similar things like I or we do. They're kind of sort in a similar field, but I personally never managed to make any connection to them. So this might be just because I don't just spend too much time in going to parties and stuff and hang out with people, which might be a mistake, but I really don't like that. I have to admit that. But on the other hand, I also think that these are like really closed circles. Probably they look at us as a closed circle as well. I don't know, but sometimes I'm wondering, like when I see people or like announcements for festivals which start to happen again, and I see those names, and I don't really understand why they never asked us. But on the other hand, why would they ask us? We are not friends with them. They might not even know our names. You might be traveling around in the world with cool guys like Tony Levin and Pat and so on. But these people are not rooted in this sort of music. They
Yeah.
have completely different. So, but they could have a sort of relation to me. But again, for them, I'm just a nobody. And I really don't feel that I kind of run after them. If I would ever have the opportunity to say hello to somebody. But again, people are nice then, and it's really, no offense meant in any way, but everybody has to do its own business. But it never really worked that way. I have like a certain kind of projects here. So one of the most notable ones would be like Tabo Tabo, which is like with Leander we talked about, but it's really like more like being a friend. It's like, look, tonight I will meet up with Leander and have a jam session. I'm just looking forward to it because he's a friend. I just like to hang out with him and talk with him about the latest science fiction books and series and stuff. And he's really good in explaining me some like music theories. He can do this in a way that I can understand and I can comprehend. And I'm serious about this. I'm really, really grateful for that. But is that a network? I don't know. And the other thing is like the Material series. Yeah, that actually goes back to one of your ideas again. So I came back from a solo tour in 2015 from the US, and as I do like my music like with a computer and stuff, it is totally easy to just record uh, every performance I do, like while I'm playing it. It's in these days like where recording isn't an issue anymore. So I came back from that tour with a couple of quite good or good recordings, and then you suggested to put them all out in like in succession. And I was like, I wasn't so sure about it because I thought that having all the releases out already that I already had up to that, it was so difficult to promote them and make people aware of all this music. To put out even more, I wasn't so sure about it. And but again, so why not? So what's to be what can be lost? What's the problem here? So I did it anyway. But I already thought it might be like really more than only this 2 or 3 ones, or just I just had the idea to put those releases together on a like a sort of a meta level, and and this word material with the double A, I don't know, it was just, it was turning in my head already for years. I don't know. It always came back, like, because like all the music I do, it's just material,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just put this extra A into it because it looks so strange. And then that was the moment I just, okay, it's material, it's there, and it's kind of stretched out. So it's like, and so I called it Material Release Series. And up to now, I've never seen anything like that on Bandcamp, which is like our main outlet. So nobody actually puts out you do now. You have your podcast series, and so we came up with like something so that you can see by the
Stickman bootlegs.
Yeah, Stickman bootlegs and stuff. So, so if somebody would ever, try to look that up and explore that, somebody would see that there's like a connection to it, and maybe somebody would even start to collect that or something, And that was the idea. And so when we were done with those recordings from that tour from 2015, I think there was like a sort of a gap. So it wasn't really sure if that is to be continued or not. And at some point, we just went on. So there was, of course, at some point there were like more music, more recordings, and and then we had like this way of putting it out and naming it. And what is also interesting about it is that it enables me to give it like super plain names. I don't have to come up every time with something meaningful, which can be fun, but sometimes you just don't have any ideas. You can just call it, okay, that was the nice session we did on that day and that place, and the listener can make something up out of it, So I would hope that somebody would say, oh, that music reminds me of this nice day I had at the seaside or something. And maybe, name it or rename it or something. But sometimes I have ideas. And then I'm also in this super great position that I'm befriended with Christina, my girlfriend, and she's like, and I'm so now we're getting back to the very first topic we were talking about, like artwork back then on those vinyls. And as I said, I was always so fascinated by like this piece of artwork that seemed to be somehow related with the music, but I didn't know how. So there must be something, and then as it turned out, it's just the relation consists of the relation. There's the music, and somebody decided to have this art, and there you go. This is the piece of art. Just cope with it. And I still like this idea, because for me, I call it to multiply the essence of it.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I asked Christina to contribute her artwork to the series. So on one hand, this makes sure that like you have like a consistent way of design or like artwork on all of those releases, because you can see her way of drawing, And on the other hand, which is super interesting, she's really not from that direction. I mean, she now understands what I'm doing, and she's really appreciating it. But from her background, she's not from that direction. She's like really having different taste in music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I really do like that. So it's like she brings in something that I haven't seen in this sort of music ever before. And it really, for me, it really works, because I look at it and it seems to tell a story, and sometimes it does, but sometimes we tell and sometimes we don't, and you have the music, and you're just thrown into this kind of funny, strange, comic style, punkish, really raw way of drawings and stories with this very abstract music in times, and so yeah, this is the basic principle of how the material series works. So more or less something on a regular basis, whenever something new is popping up on my hard drives, and then I make something out of it. People. So it's like sort of a Netflix series on a Audible level,
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you have do you have any favorite material releases? Could you name a few that you think are good starting points for people to listen to? Maybe.
Wow.
I mean, I have some ideas already. For example, the most recent one with Alex Dowerk, which is really unique, and then the Wolfgang Seidel and you, the collaborations. Like those are the first ones that kind of like come up as something that really is unique. And then the one with Gaston.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is kind of like. But what do you think?
It's for me, it's so difficult. I mean, like only recently we had the 50th anniversary. So, and I went through all of them again because I kind of, renovated, so to say, like the artworks because they weren't really consistent. And then, and I went through all of them and, put them on again, up again. And I listened to a lot of it. And every time I just, randomly like click on one of them, because there are already so much, obviously I forget about them. And it always blows me away. And it's like, wow, this is something I did already then, just like that or something. And so therefore it is super difficult for me to tell what I would like to point out to. I would really just suggest to just, open up the Material series. So if one doesn't want to look that up on the Bandcamp page, just go to my website, redundantrocker.com, and then in the search field, just put in Material, and then you'll get them all listed up, and just, scroll through them and just hit one. And that'll be the one I would suggest, seriously. It's not like, they're all so different. Like right now, you mentioned the one with Wolfgang Seidel, which is indeed a super special one. And Wolfgang Seidel is a very special person and has a very special history, especially here in Berlin. So talking again about what they call network, just hold on. I'm sorry. Yeah, so this was a very special one. Yeah, it's like there's so much to be found, I would even say, why don't just start with the very first one? Then you can see, or start with the 15th one, because that's from a technical perspective, it's something very special because I kind of created a new, like semi generative music creation system for me, and that was the first result I had, and so we decided to have this as the 15th one.
Yeah, I mean it's fascinating. I'm looking at all the covers now. This so great.
It's a story, it becomes a story just like that, without having the idea. It's you can just look at it and it's a story right away. Some of them, they do have a story. There's even one where like a Vulcanian, an alien from Vulcan, comes and visit us here in Berlin at the Cottbusser Tor, and and I was just went shopping, and I kind of missed her out, and Christina just told me later and made this drawing of it. It's like, and I was like so angry about it that I didn't talk to her and those kind of things. So this is one of those releases where we really think of a story just because we just had one.
Yeah, this is great stuff. I really, I still think that it would be great to expand the number of people that are involved in the Material series.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously this kind of came a little bit to an halt down due to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's as like everybody can see, like the number of releases that's just by me or by close friends are rising, just because it was easier to do that. But now that it seems that everything opens up again, I'd like to look up for more and very different collaborations again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, Bernhard. I mean, like there are so many things, and like even a decade that we've skipped in in our discussion. And maybe we just should do this again and talk again.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
But I just had this idea that I think, like maybe in addition to, what I've been doing, where I've been offering conversations with people, like the Living the Dream series or something like that, I think you should probably also do that. We need to talk about that.
Yeah, that's again a completely new and different idea to me, because I still don't really feel comfortable to talk in English. I mean, I can, but maybe this is again one of those historic moments where you come up with an idea which really sounds strange to me, and I'll do it anyway.
Yeah, the foundation of our very slowly growing success.
There was one last story. I mean, like I like to tell stories. We were sitting back then in Gütersloh in a cafe, like on a sunny afternoon, and I told you that we just have to act as if we were successful. So in order to become successful, just act like be successful. And to a certain extent, it seemed to work. But on the other hand, sometimes I noticed that people really think that we have reached certain degrees of success, and they treat us as if we would have like a super big company, and this was all so well organized and all that. And look, it only goes back to those two hats you see right now. Like it's like really, so it's all we're just doing it. We just pretend to be like a big, there were even people who compared us to what is the name of this cool German label where Keith Jarrett was releasing stuff.
ECM.
Yeah, like people were really comparing us to ECM. And I was like, yeah, look, this is just me, and Markus and me. This, that like just the both of us. We just make things look like. Don't expect anything from us. We can't offer you any money or something. We hardly make a living on our own,
Yeah. But I don't regret anything. It's all good.
So this is some of the things I always realize when I'm going back home. So I'm at the right place. I'm doing the right thing. I'm not wanting to do anything else. That's exactly what I was wanting to do and what I'm doing right now. Seriously.
Okay, so let's leave it at that. That's enough for people, and I think there was a lot to digest here, and we'll do this again at some point. And
yeah,
So
Maybe we
and
can then change the office room. So I go to yours and you can go here.
okay, tschüss, bis später.
Bis später. Tschüssi.